We now know the recipes of the 2 new desserts that are already here in Pokemon Sleep. In other words, if you're in dessert week, you can already cook these even though they were planned for the Valentine's event. And the developers finally delivered. They have delivered the feature that allows researchers to check their recipes at any time so that you don't have to wait for the next meal to happen before you can see the recipe that you can cook. It's actually over here if you click the little pot button, and now you can see all the curries, salads, or desserts that you've already unlocked and whether you have enough ingredients to cook that dish. And it's great because you can prepare yourself without having to look at all the recipes in a separate document and then checking whether your bag has enough ingredients manually. In fact, it's quite convenient because, well, first of all, the app will now tell you which dish week you're in. So right now I'm in desserts, which is great because I can actually cook the 2 new dishes. It tells you how many of the recipes you've already unlocked. So I've got 16 out of 20. I'm missing 4 recipes that I haven't unlocked. And highlights anything in red where you don't have enough of that ingredient, which again is great because I know I might need a bit more eggs if I want to cook the fruity flan. The only improvement I would suggest for the developers is to let us sort these dishes as well by, say, base strength or by level or by whatever like we could normally in the cooking page. Right now I have no idea what it's being sorted by. Maybe it's dishes that I just don't know. But what I do know is that the new recipe, Flower Gift Macarons, is the strongest dessert dish in the game right now. But one thing I don't like about this new feature is it kind of hides where your expand pot used to be. So expand pot is now over in this top right corner. There should be a more obvious way to know whether your pot can expand. And let me just say, you're gonna need that expand pot as much as possible if you want to cook the new dish for the Valentine event week. And that is because the new dish requires 77 ingredients. And we can see their stats under cooking in the Rainanex calculator, either under recipe calculator or recipe dishes. I use both of these features frequently to look at dishes. So if we click on over to the recipe dishes list, we can see the 2 new dishes, Flower Gift Macarons, and if you scroll down a bit, you'll find Petal Dance Chocolate Tart, which for me personally, I'm just going to unlock it once and then probably never cook it again because it's really not that powerful. But for players who are just beginning the game or have like a pot size of 22, not very much, then this might be a suitable option to cook, with its base power being only very slightly better than huge power soy donuts. So what actually makes Flower Gift Macarons the best dessert dish there is right now? In fact, we only recently got the corn dishes and it's already got power creeped. And you don't even need corns for this. You don't need Stuffle for this. Now, this is actually the basis for another video I've been planning for a while now to explain how dishes are ranked. And it's not as simple as just looking at 1 or 2 numbers, because there's a variety of factors. But in order to know whether a dish is powerful and worth your while to cook, worth your ingredients, and gives you the highest possible base strength, well, I'd say that most people, the first thing they will look at is the base strength. And that's understandably okay. You know, you can look at that base strength and go, yep, that's the strongest dish. But did you know that if you didn't even make a dish, you just used a mixed dish, in other words, don't even follow a recipe, and fit 77 ingredients of Slowpoke Tails, 77 Slowpoke Tails is actually more powerful than Flower Gift Macarons. I mean, 77 Slowpoke Tails that are worth about 300 strength each gives you 23,000 base strength, and it doesn't even need a recipe bonus. So I'm already confusing you how you should be assessing the strength of dishes. So while this will be the topic of another separate video, I'm going to briefly explain to you what criteria are needed for the best dish. Number 1, it should have a lot of ingredients in that recipe. So this number here, the number of ingredients used in a dish, should be big. because then you can make use of the recipe bonus for more ingredients as opposed to dropping the ingredients as extra ingredients that don't get the recipe bonus. Number 2 is the ingredients used should be high powered, and cacao is the highest power of all simple, non-rare ingredients. So we're excluding mushrooms, we're excluding tail, etc. Which means that macarons meets 2 of the criteria of being the perfect dish. Number 3, the ingredients should be relatively easy to farm. So we're talking about cacao if you have an Absol or hopefully a Blastoise, honey, hopefully you got a Wiggly that has double honey, and maybe you have Venusaur or you have Pinsir to help you farm the honey. Maybe you got a Blastoise or Vaporeon for the milk. The only real tricky one would be eggs because, well, other than Delibird, which is quite hard to get a good one because it's so rare, you're looking at using Snover to be your main eggs farmer. I'd say that macarons currently meet the criteria of having fairly easy ingredients to farm. Not the easiest, but fairly easy. And then another factor to consider is the recipe bonus. So by cooking this recipe, these ingredients all get a multiplier, and we can see this multiplier under recipe calculator. So if we select for desserts up here and scroll down and check out the multipliers, this is the number that I'm referring to. So both tea time scones and macarons, they both get the same multiplier, which is great. But of course, the dish that uses stronger base ingredients and has more of them is going to get more out of that multiplier than the dish that has less. So in other words, macarons actually beat scones hands down because it's able to use more ingredients with that recipe bonus. And I'm going to prove to you that every ingredient in macarons is better than every ingredient in scones. So if we take a look at the best ingredient in each recipe, we've got corn in scones and we've got cacao in macarons. So it beats it by 11 in base strength. And if we look at egg for macarons and ginger, again, egg beats ginger. That's the second best ingredient in each dish. And we use honey, which is better than milk. And then we've got milk, who's better than apple. So overall, macarons, the dish, uses stronger ingredients as long as you have enough of those ingredients to cook and have a big enough size pot. So in other words, you're running a good camp ticket, or you're using Sunday bonus, or if you've got expand pot skill like Glaceon or Flareon. Because you do have to meet that 77 pot size in order to cook this. But there's actually a better way to visualize efficiency. So what I've described here is how good of the ingredients that dish uses. The base power of these ingredients need to be good so that when you get the recipe bonus, so for example the 48% that macarons get, will boost a higher base power. There's an easier way to visualize this, and that is through Chisao's charts in our quick guides. And we've always known efficiency to be a funny number to look at because efficiency doesn't by itself determine how good a dish is. But neither does recipe bonus. Just because something has a high recipe bonus also doesn't make it the best dish. But for flour macarons, actually, they are also the highest efficiency, in other words, at the top of this chart. So by decreasing order, the dishes are ranked by efficiency. But you can see that efficiency doesn't determine the base strength because as you go down the list, we kind of get bigger, like more powerful base strength dishes being ranked lower on the efficiency tiers. But I think most would agree that Jigglypuff's Fruity Flan shouldn't be that low on a tier list. So efficiency isn't about how good a dish is, it's simply about, well, how well the recipe bonus boosts how good your base ingredients are. Efficiency, or what's known as effectiveness in this chart, just means how well that recipe will utilize the product of recipe bonus and the base strength of all ingredients in that recipe per ingredient. In other words, you can minimize your farming if you just want to sort of have the least amount of ingredients to make a dish, which is why Petal Dance Chocolate Tart ranks so high on this list, because it does use a lot of chocolate, a lot of cacao, which is a high-powered ingredient, even though apple is a very low-powered ingredient. But because cacao is just so strong, even just a 25% recipe bonus makes it more effective than dishes like Jigglypuff's Fruity Flan that uses a lot of ingredients, but they're all kind of low-powered. So this chart does not mean that you shouldn't cook anything towards the bottom of the list, or definitely not the ones that have like a single ingredient. They're useless. I never touched those since the start of the game. Unless for some strange reason you have 3,000 slowpoke tails lying around, then cooking a really small dish to fill the rest with slowpoke tails might make sense, which it doesn't anyway. Your main goal is to cook something that is both highly effective, also high base power. And we can see the base power in comparison using these numbers here. But fortunately, Flour Give Macarons, they have the highest effectiveness and the highest base power of all dessert dishes right now. And given that probably most people still haven't found their perfect corn farmer, you can forget about corn for the next week, because you should be aiming to cook the Flour Give Macarons. And of course, don't forget that during this event week, this Valentine's event week, all your dishes get a 1.5 times multiplier, which makes this, the strongest dish, even more powerful. So if you don't have to, don't waste all of your ingredients this Sunday. You should prepare some of these important ingredients like cacao, egg, honey, milk for the next week. And remember that you're going to need something to expand pot in order to cook this dish. Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk truly about how to rank dishes once and for all.